not so friendly skies. The latest on the on again, off again labor stoppage at Air Canada. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's anything but settled. The Air Canada strike by flight attendants has been declared illegal, and workers were supposed to report to the job by noon. It's now just past noon Eastern time, and it's unclear if the workers will comply. Just 2 days ago, and only hours after Air Canada flight attendants walked off the job, prompting the airline to lock them out, the federal government's jobs minister, Patty Hajdu, tried to end the whole thing.
Despite resolution on a number of key items, this dispute will not be resolved quickly enough. And the impact of the work stoppage at Air Canada that began early this morning is already being felt by travelers. This is causing significant harm and has negative impacts on Canadians and the Canadian economy. It impedes the movement of passengers and critical cargo, such as pharmaceuticals, and it strands thousands of Canadians abroad, making it extremely costly and sometimes impossible to book new flights. Canadians have already sacrificed a lot in this uncertain economy, and this labor disruption is adding to their worries and financial burdens. As Minister of Labour, I have exercised my authorities under Section 107 of the Canadian Labour Code to direct the Canada Industrial Relations Board to order the parties to resume and continue their operations and duties in order to secure industrial peace and protect the interests of Canada, Canadians, and the economy.
This is not back to work legislation, as has become routine for the federal government in recent years. The minister invoked, as you heard, Section 107 of the Canadian Labour Code. That gives the minister unilateral authority to intervene in strikes or lockouts to maintain industrial peace. It doesn't need Parliament's approval. It doesn't require a vote on back to work legislation in the House of Commons. Government used the same tactic to end the strike by mechanics at WestJet last year, did the same thing to end a labor stoppage at CN and CP Rail, and at the ports last year in Vancouver, Montreal, and Quebec City. And the use of this authority, Section 107, is the subject of at least one court challenge. Critics say it erodes workers' rights, like the right to strike. When asked why her government keeps using this method to put an end to labor stoppages, Hajdu says the harm to Canadians and the economy is too great.
I absolutely reject the notion that our government is anti-union. In fact, under the previous Liberal government, we considerably strengthened the Canada Labour Code. We banned the use of replacement workers, and we stood side by side with unions in terms of supporting their work, not only in labor negotiations, but also in training and recruiting new members. And so this work will continue. We believe that unions are an essential part of a healthy and growing economy. However, in a case like this, where multiple efforts have been made to conclude an agreement that satisfies both parties, and it is clear that they are at an impasse, it is very clear they need some help in arbitrating the final items.
Reaction from the union leadership for the Air Canada workers was immediate and defiant. At a union rally, CUPE National President Mark Hancock said his members won't be going back to work. They will instead defy the order.
This is the CIRB order. Here's what I'm supposed to do. I'm expected to say, stand down. I'm expected to direct you to go back to work. I'm expected to end this strike. When this strike would end. I said it clearly then, and I will say it clearly now. This strike will end when we get a collective agreement that works for our members.
In defying a back-to-work order, though, the union and the workers are in fact breaking the law, and union leaders and individual workers could be found in contempt. They could face fines or even jail time. In the late 70s, a union leader at Canada Post was jailed for almost 2 months for defying such an order. Air Canada had said it was planning to resume operations later today. It's unclear if that's even possible if their flight attendants stay off the job. There was a meeting last night of a number of large unions. And after that meeting, the Canadian Labour Congress issued a statement and called what Air Canada and the Carney government are doing an unconstitutional attack on workers' rights. Among the stumbling blocks to reaching an agreement is the issue of unpaid work. The cabin crews say they don't get paid until the plane takes off, and they stop getting paid when the plane arrives at the gate. It's an industry practice that the workers say needs to end. They have an ally in the House of Commons in the Conservative Party, which had a bill that would have ended that practice, but it died on the order paper when the last election was called. This is Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Garner.
I was really excited to see our party leader, Pierre Poilievre, come out and re-emphasize the need for legislation that we put forward in the last session. My colleague, Leanne Rood, put forward a bill regarding one of the flight attendants' key concerns, which is unpaid wages for while they're performing duties that are essential to passenger safety. And as somebody who is a frequent flyer, I think they should be paid for that too. So I hope that the union and management can come to an agreement on this, but certainly the principles that were contained in that bill last year are things that we stand behind as a party.
The NDP also had its own piece of legislation that would have ended the airline's use of unpaid work. It also died on the order paper. The NDP's interim leader, Don Davies, attended a union rally. He slammed Air Canada and its executives.
Customer service agents, the Crestview, everybody gave concessions to this company when they needed it. You signed 10-year collective agreements, unheard of in the industry. You rolled back your wages. You took all sorts of working condition concessions, and you did it to help the company. Now, where are we today? This company is making billions of dollars, their executives are making millions of dollars, and they are sitting here wanting you to work for free. Let me tell you, sisters and brothers, slavery is illegal in this country.
And for passengers, it could be another day of uncertainty. This woman, one of the many, stuck at Toronto's Pearson International.
I can't get information in relationship to my flight. And I'm so tired. Nobody's telling me what to do. I don't know where to go to. So I'm just stranded at the airport. I wish that Air Canada is going to tell us something.
The last time there was a major work stoppage at Air Canada, it was 2011. That's when almost 4,000 customer service agents went on strike, a strike that lasted 3 days. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Seeking to hear from a judge on being banned from the Woods, the Nova Scotia Woods Band in both Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Could be a judicial review of that. Christine Van Geyn is with us from the Canadian Constitution Foundation. Great to hear from you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Why are you seeking a judicial review of the Nova Scotia Woods ban?
Yeah, so we think that this woods ban goes too far. It's a lockdown on accessing the forests. Now, by all means, it makes sense to prohibit human activities that cause fires. Fires are serious, they're dangerous, they're very destructive. The issue isn't really whether or not fires are bad. It's about whether the government's response and their plans to mitigate fire risk are unreasonable. And banning campfires is reasonable. Banning even ATVing is reasonable because there's been, cases where a hot exhaust pipe from an ATV sparks a fire when it's left in tall grass or leaves. But banning people from hiking, picnicking, bird watching in the forest, that's just taking things too far. Those activities do not cause fire. They don't come with any risk. This is government overreach, and that's why we're seeking a judicial review. We think it's actually even outside the scope of the provincial authority to prohibit access to the forests, which includes, by the way, private property, woods on private property, for the entire province for such an extended period. So that's why we are seeking a judicial review.
Okay. So what happens next?
So what happens next is we are going to be seeking this to be heard on an urgent basis, and
Okay.
a court is going to look at what the statute says. The relevant statute here is called the Forests Act, which, by the way, defines woods as very broadly to include forests, but also marshes, bogs, muskegs, and barren rock. So places where forest fires actually don't even take place. You're prohibited from traveling. And there's all kinds of arbitrariness in how this is being applied, because the proclamation that prohibits access to the woods says one thing. It says you cannot travel to places for the purposes of going in the woods. But then the premier has said other things. He said, well, if you have to take a short path through the forest to get to a fishing spot, you can do that, even though the text of the proclamation says otherwise. And it also is arbitrary in how it's being enforced, because a lot of the municipalities, Nova Scotia is heavily forested, and a lot of the parks include forested parts of the parks. And it just seems completely arbitrary which parks are closed and which ones are open, because all of them essentially have forests on them.
Okay. You have been arguing that this is a trend that's known as safetyism, and that we should beware of government overreach in the name of what you call safetyism. You actually have a column in the National Post that touches on this today. What do you mean by that? Safetyism.
Yeah, so safetyism is this idea that the primary value that needs to govern society is safety, and that can include physical safety, but as well, it also has been used to prohibit things that jeopardize people's emotional or mental safety. And so we see the government justifying all kinds of things in the name of safety, even when those activities might come with very little risk, like walking in the forest. And historically, governments use this narrative of things are so dangerous, we are here to protect you, this is for your own good, to justify, historically, the most grotesque violations of civil liberties. For example, the internment of Japanese Canadians in 1942 in these internment camps where their property was sold without consent, and they were forced to live in these rundown shacks in the interior of BC. That was justified in the name of safety. The government said this is to keep Canadians safe. The Pierre Elliott Trudeau's invocation of the War Measures Act in response to the October crisis in 1970, that was justified in the name of safety, and it included the suspension of habeas corpus. It allowed for warrantless searches of homes across Quebec. It resulted in the arrest of hundreds of people who had nothing to do with the October crisis itself. So governments, when they can claim something is for safety, tend to go too far.
Okay. We'll be watching it. Christine, thank you for the time today. Good to hear from you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
That's Christine Van Geyn from the Canadian Constitution Foundation. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. All 3 hours. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker spelled S-E-E-K-R. It has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports, and you can download Seeker or iOS or Android. That's Seeker spelled S-E-E-K-R. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the Blue Jays fell to the Texas Rangers yesterday in the third and final game of that series, but the Jays still took 2 out of 3 games in that series. Final score yesterday, 10-4. Jose Barrios didn't have his best stuff. He was on the mound for the Jays yesterday. Saw his own 4-game win streak come to an end, and the Blue Jays had a 4-game win streak snapped. But they're getting great crowds, I must say, out at Rogers Center in Toronto. Attendance at Rogers Center once more, around 43,000. The Jays are on the road now. They are in Pittsburgh for a series against the Pirates. The Pirates are, well, to say the least, they're not having a great season. Well below 500. They sit in last place in the National League's Central Division. And the Jays, there they are, still firmly in place in the American League East. They are 5 full games ahead of the Boston Red Sox. Boston fell 5-3 to the Marlins yesterday. The Red Sox will begin a series with the Orioles tonight at home. The Yankees are 5.5 games behind the Jays. The Yankees down the Cardinals yesterday, 8-4. The Yankees will start a series with the Rays tomorrow on the road. Kevin Gausman on the mound for the Jays tonight, and you can catch all the Blue Jays action on Sportsnet, and you can listen to the Jays games on the radio at 95.7 News Radio in Halifax, 570 News Radio in Kitchener, and on Sportsnet 960 The Fan in Calgary. And I am back to work on Monday because I did not win the Lotto Max on Saturday. Nobody did. Yeah, still no winner of that big Lotto Max jackpot. So tomorrow night's draw is getting pretty close to record-breaking territory. The jackpot, not quite a record, but getting close. $75 million for tomorrow's draw. So, yeah, you heard that right, $75 million. And then there are 12 prizes. The Max Million draws, they're worth $1 million each. The odds of winning it all, a mere 1 in 33 million. The largest Lotto Max jackpot ever won was $80 million. That was actually just a few months ago. A young man from Surrey, British Columbia, won it all and won it all by himself. He bought his ticket while he was picking up some hamburger buns at the local store. Need some hamburger buns and about $80 million, please. There have been a few winners of jackpots worth $70 million over the years, the last coming in early 2020. Someone from Alberta won $65 million back in 2019 after the winner had spent years of buying tickets at the same gas station. But yes, tomorrow night's Lotto Max draw, $75 million. Coming up right after the latest breaking news. Political problems for the Carney government. What are the political implications of once again bringing an end to a labor disruption, this time at Air Canada, using this Section 107? And another big story today is it's by-election day in Battle River, Crowfoot, where Pierre Poilievre is running and hoping to start his comeback to Parliament. Talk about that with our Newsday panelists coming right up. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio. Well, it's time for our Newsday panel. James Cumming is with us. James is a former Conservative MP, once represented the riding of Edmonton Centre. Thank you very much for joining us today, James Cumming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, great to hear from you today. We are supposed to connect with Deirdra Tindale, Vice President, Crestview Strategy, works out of Montreal. As soon as we connect with her, we'll bring Deirdra on the line. But there's certainly a lot of news that you and I can discuss, James. For example, the Carney government over the weekend, as I'm sure you know, and once again, used Section 107 of the Labor Code to force an end to this labor disruption at Air Canada. It had been a strike/lockout that had been in effect only just a few hours. The union has said it's going to defy that order. I mean, it's chaos for travelers. On the repeated use, though, of this Section 107, what do you think of the government repeatedly using that Section 107 of the Labor Code?
Well, I think in the broader context, the issue is for air travel in Canada, we really only have 2 major airlines. So you've got a restricted marketplace that, doesn't give a lot of choice. So when you only have really 2 competitors in the marketplace, it puts puts Canadians in a really, really difficult position is that when you have a labor issue like we're having right now, at the end of the day, the customers are the ones that are affected, and they don't have any other choices because of the market, the way it's structured in Canada. So I have some empathy for the government in that, we've got people there all over the world trying to get home and travel. But I also understand the issues with the flight attendants and wages and a bargaining process that is important to them. From what I've read and listened to from the unions, their primary complaints are, it sounds like, goes back to a broader picture, cost of living. And we have a broader context, a cost of living issue in the country. So that links into wage settlements and agreements in a variety of different sectors, including the airline industry. So really tough circumstance, but I think at some point the public's going to demand access to more flights and more choice.
Okay. How do you see this playing out for the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, when it comes to dealing with the labor movement? This is really his first big test.
Well, I don't think the labor movement will be entirely happy. At some point, yeah. Well, they're going to go to binding arbitration, and at some point there'll be a settlement, like there are in issues when this comes up. I think the broader context is, what does the public feel? And the longer this kind of stuff goes on, the more who's going to have the support? Will the union have the support, or will the government have the support? And I think the longer that people are not able to get back to their place of work or their residences, and the impact it has on the economy, the less favorable people will be towards the union.
Okay. Nevertheless, the Conservative Party has come across as being very sympathetic to the flight attendants' cause. Are you surprised by your party's own position on this?
Well, I think the approach that the Conservative government or the Conservative Party has taken is that, we've had 10 years of slow growth in the economy. We've had an incredible increase in cost of living. All those things combined have led to a pretty anemic economy. So I think on the side of the workers, I think everybody feels their pain, is that everything's gotten much more expensive. And wages aren't tracking with that. So you either have, an economy that's growing that has more capacity to pay more wages, or you have an economy that's slowing that can't do that. And so that's where I think the Conservative Party has said, we empathize with workers. It's gotten more expensive to live in this country. And I think that's the approach that they're taking.
Deirdra Tindale has joined us, Vice President at Crestview. Hi, Deirdra. Great to hear from you again.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, we're just great. Hope everything is going well with your summer in Montreal. On the Section 107 use by the Liberal government, I mean, it's done this many, many times, even in just the last year with port workers, with rail workers. What do you think of the new Carney government using this method to bring an end to the labor disruption, at least try to, at Air Canada?
Yeah, I mean, the Carney government was certainly out of the gate very quickly on this. And, it doesn't give them many options going forward. So it'll be interesting to see in coming days. The Prime Minister has suggested that the minister will have more to say on this later today. So I guess we wait and see. I mean, I think, the Canadians will be sympathetic to the right to strike. And I think I, like many Canadians, wasn't aware that flight attendants weren't being paid for time on the ground. So they'll have a sympathetic ear in that. Of course, it's easier to be sympathetic if you're not the one who's stuck somewhere in an airport trying to get home after your family holiday, to get back to work, to get back to school planning, et cetera. So it's going to be an interesting time for both sides.
Okay. As I mentioned to James, the Conservatives have sounded sympathetic to the workers in this cause. They even had legislation in the House that they say would have addressed many of the workers' complaints about this unpaid work issue. How do you? What have you thought of the Conservative position on this?
Probably not entirely surprising, given that the Conservatives during the last election campaign are really the ones who seem to be tapping into the plight of the everyday Canadian, and were securing endorsements from unions, for example. So, they're talking about bread and butter issues, and the Conservatives, that is. And if you're talking about somebody's salary and their quality of life, then that is absolutely a bread and butter issue. And I think, as I said earlier, this is the kind of thing that people expect in Canada, that you'll be paid for hours worked. And so I think it's probably caught a lot of people by surprise to find out that that has not been the case.
Okay. When we come back, we'll talk about by-election day. Battle River Crowfoot. That riding will be decided today, and is it the start of a comeback for Pierre Poilievre? I'm Rob Snow. It's our Newsday panel. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Talking politics on our Newsday panel today with James Cumming, former Conservative MP, represented the riding of Edmonton Centre. Deirdra Tindale, Vice President, Crestview Strategy, working out of Montreal today. Maybe a late night for those of us in Eastern Canada, awaiting with bated breath the returns to come in from the Battle River Crowfoot by-election. That'll be decided today. Considered one of the safest Conservative ridings in the country, Pierre Poilievre, along with 200 plus other candidates. Pierre Poilievre is hoping to win his this riding and make a return to Parliament after losing in his former riding of Carleton in the Ottawa area. So, James, you're the Alberta guy here. How do you think Poilievre has handled this by-election campaign? How's he done, in your opinion?
Well, I think he's done what you have to do in a by-election. He could have, I suppose, spent less time here, but my understanding is he's been on the ground. He's attended forums. He's knocked on doors. He's been quite active in the riding. So I think he's doing everything he should be doing in the by-election. So I don't think there's any doubt he's going to win this by-election in my mind.
Okay. Why do you say that? Why is there no doubt?
Well, it's always had strong Conservative support, and he's been doing the work. So you combine the two of those together, and I think the electorate in that riding will give him the nod.
Okay. Deirdre, what do you think about how Mr. Poilievre has handled this by-election campaign?
Well, I think he's been helped by bringing around up to this point, who had been the incumbent MP, who is obviously very well respected. So Damien has been out on the hustings with Pierre Poilievre, and that has certainly helped. But Pierre is a very good retail politician. He's very good at knocking on doors, at standing in lines, and really taking the pulse of the situation. So I wasn't surprised to see him spend the summer out there. I mean, that's what you have to do in any election. And I think he is somebody who does not take anything for granted. So I would agree with James. I think we'll see Pierre Poilievre win this evening fairly handily. Let's remember the Liberals got 11% in the most recent election, that riding held in April. We'll see if that percentage goes up at all in this one, but I don't think it's enough to think that there's a real threat to the Conservative Party in that riding.
Okay. So Damien Carrick, James, won in the April 28th federal election with 83% of the vote. A lot of people will be keeping an eye on that number. What if Poilievre doesn't get 83% of the vote or even close to it? What if it's 70% of the vote or whatever? Should we read too much into that if Pierre Poilievre wins but doesn't get 83% of the vote? What would you say?
Well, it's a by-election, so I'm not. I guess it depends on what voter turnout looks like, but I do think that he'll get a very, very strong mandate from the electorate in the riding. I wouldn't read too much into it, but I'm pretty convinced that he'll do just fine.
Do just fine. I mean, 83% is such a big number. What if he doesn't get anywhere close to that, Deirdre? What would you think about that?
Well, we'll certainly see headlines that say, he got less than 80%, for example. But I think realistically, 60 to 70% is probably what we can expect. Let's remember, there's 214 names on the ballot. There's confusion as to, how voters have to vote with having to write in names suddenly. So, there's been a bit of trickery, shall we call it, by those who have instigated this. And I think realistically, what we just want to see is a strong leader of the opposition back in the House of Commons in the fall, asking serious questions of Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Okay. Well, one of the things they're promising to focus on is the electric vehicle sales mandate. Poilievre had an event last week. It was actually in Saskatchewan. He was talking about the canola tariffs and then was talking about the EV sales mandate and how that has to be ended. He calls it the Carney tax. We'll talk about that when we come back. I'm Rob Snow, their Newsday panel here on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Just to give you an update on what's been happening with the Air Canada situation with the strike being declared illegal. They are having a news conference right now. QB leadership saying they are not going to report to work. So in defiance of the strike being declared illegal, that would open the union and even the workers up to fines and potential jail time. And Mark Hancock, who is the national president of the union, said, he was asked, well, are you willing to go to jail? And he said, well, if that's what happens, so be it. So we'll see, man, oh man, we'll see what happens with that. Let's talk about Pierre Poilievre is on now the Carney tax and saying is going to be this relentless focus when the House resumes on the electric vehicle sales mandate, which is supposed to start being phased in as of January 1 of next year. He's calling it the Carney tax. The electric vehicle sales mandate is the Carney tax. What do you think about the Conservatives focusing so much attention on this? Deirdra Tindale, what do you think about that?
I think Pierre is already starting to sound like an Albertan.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I mean, well, I think the bottom line here is actually the principle of choice, right? It's the idea that government should not be telling Canadians what they can and cannot do. And I think that's where, by attacking the suggestion that we should be looking to purchase a certain type of vehicle, that in itself would go against the types of principles that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party stand for.
Okay. What do you think about that, James? The decision to focus so much on the electric vehicle sales mandate. There'd be motions in Parliament and news conferences about it. He says they're going to be relentless on it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Deirdre's right from a principle standpoint, freedom of choice. But I think it's bigger than that, is that, we've listened for the last 10 years. This government has come up with policy after policy after policy that are just not practical. They're big picture, ideology-driven policies that, from a practical standpoint, it just doesn't work. Like, can you imagine this mandate? Like, I think of Alberta particularly, the infrastructure is not in place. People that live in rural Alberta, it's just we're not ready for it. Even if you push this through, the consumers are what are they going to do? What are the people that have to get their goods and services to market? What are people that have to travel any kind of distances being able to do? So again, I think this is an example of a policy where, maybe it sounded good to some people, but from a practical standpoint, it's just not solid policy. It's actually, I find it ridiculous.
Okay. Well, we have seen Poilievre really, drive the agenda on things like the carbon tax, the cost of living crisis, the need for immigration reform, these sorts of things. Could you see the Liberals maybe relenting on this, Deirdre, on the vehicle mandate, the EV mandate?
I mean, again, they acted fairly early on in their mandate on this, their new mandate, their latest mandate, that is, under Prime Minister Mark Carney. We know that in a former life, this is exactly the kind of policy that Prime Minister Carney was extremely supportive of because it meshed quite well with his views of what we should be doing to combat climate change and on the environmental front. So I think, though, if the government is serious about the mandate, then they also need to be serious about investing in the infrastructure because that is what's missing at this point in time. And if they want to get broad support, then they need to do something more than just introduce a mandate.
Okay. Well, great to hear from both of you. I really enjoyed the discussion today. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye-bye. James Cumming is a former Conservative MP who represented the riding of Edmonton Centre, and Deirdra Tindale, Vice President at Crestview Strategy in Montreal. Talkback is coming up next. This is News Radio. Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. We have a couple of topics for you to consider and comment on. Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. One of them is the labor stoppage at Air Canada. Very interesting story, fast-developing story. The other is the political future of the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre. By-election day is today. The Alberta riding is Battle River Crowfoot. So some questions for you. On the Air Canada situation, I mean, the government moved to end this work stoppage. The flight attendants went on strike. The company locked them out. Then just a few hours later, not even a full day later, the Carney government, under the section of the Labor Code, Section 107, that you're going to hear a lot about, effectively ended the work stoppage, tried to get everyone back to work, tried to get Air Canada operations back to normal. The union has said it's going to defy that order. Very unusual. The strike's been declared illegal. So this could come with consequences for the union, could come with consequences for the individual workers. The unions could be fined. The union leaders could face jail time. The workers could face daily fines. As I said, illegal strike. They had until noon to be back on the job, noon Eastern. It's 1:05 Eastern time now. And there's no indication as of yet whether these workers are going to report back to work. The union representing these workers, CUPE, and union leaders of other unions say the whole labor movement is united by this action by the government that they see as the government siding with the airline in putting an end to their strike so soon. The union movement as a collective says this is yet another erosion of workers' rights, and that it violates what they see as a constitutionally protected right to strike. But look, you could make the case. This is a legally binding order that the government has issued in the interest of industrial peace. And that by defying this order, these workers and their union leaders, they're breaking the law. And that it's against the law for these workers not to be back on the job. They're breaking the law. Where do you come down on this? Where do you come down on this? If you're taking sides, are you inclined to side with one or the other? Do you support these flight attendants who say, we're not getting paid for work that is part of a normal day's work for us? Do you support the airline? The airline says it's offering these workers big raises over the next 4 years, somewhere between 18 and 38%, which, would be well above anything close to the rate of inflation. Do you think these workers should be back on the job as they've been ordered to? Because if they don't, they're breaking the law. They're violating a legal order, and they should follow the law. It is a labor stoppage that is Going to hurt the Canadian economy, going to hurt the economy, and it's impacting hundreds of thousands of people. Love your thoughts on this. Where do you come down on this? If you're inclined to support one position or the other, what is it? 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. And then there's the other topic for today. Big day for Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, a chance for a little bit of redemption, I suppose. I mean, the last election did not go according to the script for the Conservatives. The party blew a big lead, lost the election to the Liberals. Pierre Poilievre lost his own long-held riding in the Ottawa area of Carleton. He'd been elected there, I think, 7 times. So if Mr. Poilievre wins this by-election tonight, he would have a path back to the House of Commons. Parliament resumes sitting in the middle of September. And Poilievre and his loyalists sound as though they are convinced that the Conservatives really can make a comeback, that the Conservatives can even win the next election, and that Mr. Poilievre still has a good shot at becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada. What do you think of that scenario? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that's ever going to happen? What would you say? It's kind of the first step of the comeback for Pierre Poilievre. Has to win tonight. If he doesn't win tonight, then, I mean, that's it for him. This by-election is in one of the safest Conservative ridings in the country, Battle River Crowfoot. In the last election earlier this year, the Conservative candidate, Damien Kirk, carried the riding for the Conservatives with 83% of the vote. One of the twists of this by-election has been the longest ballot initiative, the group signing up more than 200 people to run in it. Second time this group has done this in an election featuring a Pierre Poilievre riding. Poilievre has called the whole thing a scam. In response to that, Elections Canada is having a special ballot. Voters get to write in the name of the person they're voting for. It's okay if you spell the name wrong. As long as the spelling is close, I guess the vote will count. But then Parliament will be back. And the next big test, if Poilievre can carry this thing tonight, he would face a leadership review in the new year in January. That would be another test. But right now, I mean, really no indication that voters have any voters' remorse after the last election. Mark Carney cruising to victory in the last election. Carney's favorability numbers are quite strong. Seems to be enjoying an extended political honeymoon. Poilievre is hoping he can spoil that, put an end to that honeymoon, and even in the longer term, position the Conservatives to win that next election. And he still thinks he can become Prime Minister of Canada. I'd like to know what you think. Do you see that happening in the future for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party? 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Our call-in line. Love to hear from you on either of these topics today. Feel free to comment on both if you want to. The work stoppage at Air Canada. You support the workers, or should they get back to work? And by-election day in Alberta, and what is supposed to be the start of the comeback for Pierre Poilievre. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to us, and we'll make your call a priority. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talkback on a Monday. It's a hot one. The Air Canada strike has been declared to be an illegal strike. So far, the union is saying the workers are going to defy the back-to-work order, despite the threat of fines, potentially even jail time. What do you think about that? Do you side with the workers in this labor dispute? Do you think they should go back to work? A big day in Canadian politics as well. It's the by-election today in Battle River Crowfoot. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, hoping he can win that by-election and get back in the House of Commons in time for the fall sitting. But can you see Pierre Poilievre leading the Conservatives to victory in the next election, forming a government, Pierre Poilievre becoming the Prime Minister? Have your say on one or both of those topics, please. 1-833-668-2577 here on Talkback today. James in Bellwood, Ontario. James. Hello, James.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, James. Thank you. What do you think about what's going on?
I'm 100% in favor of the flight attendants, and it's absolutely ridiculous that the government keeps ordering unions back to work as soon as they're in a strike position, which is their legal right. And for them to say it is legal is ridiculous. The flight attendants, just to clear something up, I'm an airline pilot, and how they get paid is when I release the parking brake, their pay clock starts, and when I set the parking brake at destination is when it stops. So when you're sitting on an airplane and the flight attendants are bringing you food and that sort of thing, and any delay with the plane on the gate, they are not getting paid a penny. Also, before you get on an airplane, there's a series of safety checks. They're my liaison to safety in the back of the airplane, and they are doing a whole bunch of safety checks within the cabin as per company's standard operating procedures. They're doing all those safety checks, and up till now, they are getting paid nothing for that. If they went back to work, and if they were ordered back to work, I'm not so sure the airline would even operate anyways, because if they went back and went under a work-to-rule situation, if they're not getting paid and they're not mandated to do, their safety checks would have to occur after the parking brake was taken off. And I can't do that. I can't release the brake without the safety checks being done. So vital parts of their job are done, and they're done unpaid. And I'm the majority of it's appalling. It's appalling pay for what their responsibilities are, especially when you consider in light of something like an evacuation situation. It's crazy. So the company needs the government needs to stay out of the negotiation business and let them settle it. And they are in a legal right to strike, so they should stay on strike.
Okay, the strike has now been declared illegal. Well, it's illegal.
Yeah. The strike is they can declare it whatever they want. They're in a legal position to strike. Just because it's inconvenient for people who are on a vacation or that sort of thing, this is their livelihood. And anybody belongs to any other union in Canada, you better be supporting these people because it's you next. That's who's next. If these flight attendants go back to work because they're mandated back to work, and like I said, if they go back and they say we are going to work to the absolute letter of our contract, they won't. The safety checks won't be able to get done because they're not.
The airline would be paralyzed, right? The airline would be paralyzed in that case, I guess.
If they went work to rule, that's my understanding is they'd be paralyzed because they're not paying them for vital duties that have to be done, or I can't release the parking brake and take that airplane flying.
Okay. Thank you, James. I understand completely, sir. Yep. Thank you very much. You've outlined it well. Okay. Again, that's on the Air Canada strike. Let's go to Marcel is in Okotoks. Marcel.
Good morning.
Hi, Marcel.
Hello.
What's your opinion?
Yes.
What's your opinion, Marcel?
I would like to comment on both of the issues you're talking about. First, I'd like to talk about Poiliev. He should be the leader. He should win today. And I don't really care whether it's 82% or 75%. I remember one conservative leader who couldn't count more than 51%, and the conservative lost a leader again. I remember the name Joe Clark by the looks of it. I think Poiliev should be elected, and I think he could rest again and run and lead the Conservatives next year. I think this government is going to fall very shortly anyway. That's one.
Okay. All right.
On the strike issue?
Yes. Air Canada,
Canada is being held hostage by unions in this country.
By unions,
teachers,
okay.
Oh, absolutely. Teachers, healthcare, the post office. We have so many monopolies and oligopolies in this country. It is time for us to start really looking at right-to-work laws for certain industries. We can no longer do this. I understand people are saying that they don't have enough money and so on and so forth. Cut taxes everywhere, people will have money. We work 6 months for the government in this country. I mean, that's part of the problem. we have to have a government that looks at the economy in a totally different way.
Okay.
And that's part of the whole issue.
Okay, but you're more inclined to not side with the workers in this particular one. You think they're
it's an illegal,
holding Canadians? I mean, it is. It's 500,000 people apparently have been impacted by this strike. So I do see your point on that. We do have to wrap up our conversation there, however. I'm Rob Snow, just getting underway on Talkback today with labor strife at the nation's biggest airline and a big night ahead for Pierre Poilievre. What's his political future? This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So the two big stories in Canada today. One is the Air Canada strike's been declared illegal, but so far the union is saying their workers are not going back to work. What do you think about that? Do you side with the workers in this labor dispute, the flight attendants, the cabin crew? Or do you think, look, you've been ordered back to work, go back to work? And the other big story, by-election day, Battle River Crowfoot, Pierre Poilievre hoping he can win and get back in the House of Commons. But do you see longer-term Pierre Poilievre, say, leading the Conservatives to victory in an election, forming a government, becoming prime minister? 1-833-668-2577 to Al in southern Alberta today. Hello, Al. You're up next. Hi, Al.
Hello, Ron. I agree with the union all the way.
You do?
The situation where they have this, like the pilot said, he got to release the brake. That kind of a thing was when they used to fly 12 people per plane. Look at the crowds we get on the plane now and how long it takes. And like, for example, between Calgary and Vancouver, it's like with layover and reloading and all the rest of it, it's like a 4-hour from break to break. But that flight takes 7 to 8 hours, so they're basically getting paid for half of their day. That's not right.
Okay.
The other thing, I'm going to deviate a little bit. I wouldn't mind if you get one of your people on this thing where Jack called you last week and said he's got to lay off 50 people because of this. It's like Ontario's. Oh yeah, hit them back with the counter.
The counter tariffs. Yeah.
The counter tariffs are killing a lot of little companies in this country. Why don't we realize it and start just knock it off? We got an idiot in Washington D.C. who figures that all this money's rolling in. He doesn't realize that from day one, not $1 has crossed the border into the U.S. It's all their own money being churned into his back pocket, so he can say, "Oh, look at what I've done." It's ridiculous. Why are we even putting counter tariffs on? Like for example, Bix pickles. Most of the pickles are grown in Canada, but they go down there, get packaged, and we got a big tariff on them. Well, come on.
Okay.
Guys.
Well, that's a little off the topic for today. I mean, the big Trump news is probably just getting started because Trump and Zelensky are going to meet in the Oval Office in just a few minutes from now. So the last time, of course, that didn't go too well, but we'll see what happens this time. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your call. We'll stop here and then bring you right up to date on all the latest breaking news, including, the moment by moment developments in the Air Canada strike/lockout. The strike part of it has been declared illegal now by the Canadian Industrial Relations Board, but it doesn't appear as though that's going to be the end of it. Air Canada had been hoping that it would be able to start resuming operations sometime later today. That's all, I suppose you could say. We would normally say up in the air, but we're not quite sure just yet. All the details just ahead. I'm Rob Snow. This is Talkback on News Radio. Talking about a couple of big stories in the country today with your help at 1-833-668-2577. The Air Canada strike has been declared an illegal strike. It was a strike/lockout. They went on strike, then they were locked out. But the Canadian Industrial Relations Board says the strike is illegal. You have to go back to work. That was about an hour and a half ago. They had to report to work an hour and a half ago. And there's no indication they're going to do that. The union has been saying we're going to defy the back to work order. So essentially, you have an illegal strike at the country's largest airline. Are you still siding with the workers in this labor dispute? Or given that they're breaking the law, should they go back to work? 1-833-668-2577. And what do you see ahead for the political future of Pierre Poilievre? He's running in this by-election in Battle River Crowfoot. The by-election is happening today. Do you see him ever leading the Conservatives to victory in an election, forming a government, and becoming prime minister? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Some are saying if the comeback is on for Pierre Poilievre, it starts tonight. Have your say on either of those topics. John is in Calgary. John, thanks for waiting, John.
Hey, Rob, how are you doing today?
Just great, John. Yeah, pretty busy day in the news business today.
My wife's a very senior flight attendant, and this whole strike mess is it's just horrible. These guys aren't paid for anything. There's so many times my wife's been on flights where she goes from here to Vancouver and has to sit for 4 hours and flies back and gets paid for very minimum. The way they calculate hours for flight attendants is not the same as an average person. A flight attendant cannot work more than 110 hours a month. It's just the way it is with Transport Canada. They're only allowed a certain amount of flying hours per month. Okay. So there's a lot of things these guys need to come up with to make things even for them.
Well, the union says one of the things it's offering is big raises over the next 4 years, between 18 and 38% raises over the next 4 years. Why isn't that enough?
Well, because it's not 38%. If it was a 38% raise on the salary over 4 years, sure, that would be enough. But it's not. They're including in there their pensions. They're including half pay for travel time. They're just wording it to make it sound like it's a ton of money, and it absolutely isn't.
Okay. And what if it's closer? So what if it's closer to the 18%? What if it's closer to the 18% when inflation is running at less than 2% a year? You're still getting better than a cost of living increase.
For time on the ground. Air Canada hasn't had a pay raise for 10 years for the flight attendants.
Okay.
10 years. Okay. How much has inflation gone up in 10 years? And the other thing is the joke of the matter from the government, and this is going to be one of Carney's big downfalls, is the whole idea of putting in an Air Canada lawyer to be the binding arbitrator is a friggin' joke, and say, oh, there's no conflict of interest. Come on. We're all smarter than that, aren't we?
Yeah. The optics of that are not good. I think that person should have to recuse themselves. Just over the optics.
She's been a consultant for Air Canada as early as 2022, I think she said, 2023, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on. If you're going to play fair, play fair, right? I mean, Carney's just not equipped to do this. He's not equipped to deal with Trump. He's not equipped with anything. He was great for fear mongering during his whole campaign, going, "Oh, elbows up. We're going to go fight the big orange man." He did absolutely nothing. Now all of a sudden we got tariffs from China coming in.
Right.
Where'd that come from?
Okay. Well, that's again a bit outside of the scope here, but I must get back to this Air Canada thing since you're intimately involved in this. I mean, the union is saying we're going to defy this back to work order. What do you think about the union leadership's position here?
100%. They should.
I mean, your wife could get fined. Your wife could get fined $1,000 a day.
My wife would go to jail for it and be smiling the whole way.
Really?
Yeah, really. Because you know what? Fair is fair. It's time we stand up. We're getting tired of pushed around. Everybody is. Everybody in the country's sick of it. Forget Alberta, forget all that stuff. There's so many optics on all sides of it. This is just one thing. What they struck for they didn't even get on strike and they were ordered back to work.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. It was like 9 hours later. Okay, thank you. Thank you, John, for having your say. Diane, also in Alberta today. Hi, Diane. You're on the air, Diane.
Hi there.
Hi, Diane.
I wasn't sure. Hi. I wasn't sure whether people were being filled in about the flight attendants with regards to their pay scale. I know that I was a customer service agent for most of my career, And we started, say, at $10 an hour, where the flight attendants started at $20. So in that respect, their pay scale was including some of that, downtime that they were not being paid for in that respect. Having said that, I think that it's only fair that they be paid for the time that they arrive at the gate and on the aircraft.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Okay. This strike has been declared illegal, and the union says doesn't matter. And our workers are with us, and they want us to stay out. What do you think of that?
I have less of an opinion on that, in that I feel that if that's what the unions are choosing to do, I think it's more the unions than the workers, but then I could be wrong. I've been out of the industry for a while, so.
Right. Okay. Do you think they should be back at work, though? It's been declared illegal. They're basically breaking the law.
Yes. Actually, I think they probably should go back, but they should also go to arbitration and figure this thing out.
That was kind of the plan with this Section 107 and directing the Industrial Relations Board to appoint an arbitrator and impose a contract on both sides.
Air Canada the company itself needs to also be, fair, like just taking into account the amount of money that they're making too. So let's be fair about this whole thing.
Thank you. There's a lot of moving parts to it. You can have your say on it as well. It's a big developing story today. The Air Canada strike declared illegal, but it still hasn't come to an end. And resuming normal operations of the country's largest airline very much in doubt right now. Have your say on it. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talk Back on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So the Air Canada strike has been declared an illegal strike, but so far the union is saying the workers will defy the back-to-work order. We'll have our workers back. You side with the workers in the labor dispute? Should they go back to work? They're breaking the law. And big day for Pierre Poilievre in Battle River Crowfoot with a by-election happening in that safe conservative riding tonight. This is seen as part of Poilievre's comeback. If he wins, he would get a seat again in the House of Commons, but could you see him leading the Conservatives to victory in an election, forming a government, becoming the Prime Minister? Let's jump back into things. In Red Deer today is Tyler is in Red Deer. Hello, Tyler.
Hey, Rob. Just wanted to weigh in on the Air Canada strike, I guess, first.
Sure. Yes.
Let's lay it out. There's three sides of this debate. You have the flight attendants, you have the general public, and then you have the corporation of Air Canada. Mm-hmm. And they all tend to think about themselves, of course, which is, that's what we do as humans. So let's consider the flight attendants. They do need a raise, and they're getting it. And I think the optics of the story, I'm going to say across the nation, is that, you're getting that 18 to 36%, and then you're asking for more on top. It's not good optics for the union. Do they deserve a raise because of inflation? Absolutely. But I think Air Canada has, worked towards, remedying that with what they've proposed. And, it's a low margin operation, operating an airline. I don't think well, I'm sure they make money, but it is not an easy business. And I would rather see Air Canada stay in business to represent our country, obviously. And then there's a third member of this debate, and that's the general public, who they're, everyone thinks the bullies are at the top. The bullies are always all the way down the hierarchy. These flight attendants might be suffering, but what about the people that want to get home?
Yes. Yes.
So you might think you're being bullied, but you have to look down the hierarchy if you're being a bully too. And I just don't think the optics sit that well.
Okay. So if you were inclined to side with one or the other, which way are you leaning right now?
I think
it's
that
an
I'm
illegal strike. I mean, these are pretty rare where, that a ruling is issued, this strike is illegal, and the union basically says, meh, so what? We'll go to jail.
Right. And right. I think this is the mentality of the union. Like, I'm in Alberta, and people are going to obviously have a little prejudgment in their mind of my point of view, and they probably got it right. I believe in a little more freedom, a little more liberty, and I'm not a huge fan of unions necessarily. I think they have their use, but again, like I said, like the optics are bad because Air Canada flight attendants are getting an 18 to 36% raise. They make $40,000 to $80,000 a year. They work 110 hours a month. I think they're doing pretty good.
Right.
And
unemployment is unemployment is on the rise. There are lots of people who'd love to have a good job like this, right?
You got it. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. Let's take, we can take one more. In Airdrie, Scott is up next in Airdrie. Hi, Scott.
Hi, how you doing?
Just great, Scott. Thank you. What's your opinion?
As a union member myself, I can honestly say I'm in the airlines industry. The unions have given so much back over the years to Air Canada when they when they were bankruptcy, when they went through the COVID thing. Employees have been mistreated for years upon years from the company. And regarding the illegal strike portion, it's within the Charter of Rights to be allowed to strike. So technically, the government is breaking the rights of and charters.
Well, that'll be subject to a court challenge, of course. This is where, this will all be presented to a judge, of course, right?
Oh, exactly. But that's some of the other stuff that a lot of people aren't talking about is unions gave tons of hours back, stock options back, a whole bunch of other things during the Air Canada bankruptcy and the mergers with Canadian way back in the day. So this has been a long time brewing.
Let me ask you this, because this has been out there. This has been out there as well. This whole idea of not getting paid until the pilot takes the brakes off, and as soon as the brake comes back on, you stop getting paid. This is not a new issue. This is a long-standing complaint from flight attendants. Why wasn't it negotiated, say, 10 years ago?
It has always been a hot-button topic, but they've always made concessions, and a lot of the times it's been binding arbitration where the members don't even get a chance to vote like they want to now. I think they would be back at work right now if they went to arbitration, but not binding. The fact that they don't even get a vote as to the deal that gets presented to them, I think that's the biggest hiccup right now in everybody's bonnet, is that the fact that they're not even going to get to vote on a deal.
Okay.
And a lot of the unions within Air Canada also signed 10-year deals for the betterment of long-term stability in the airline. That was prior to COVID. A lot of the unions did that.
All right. Be right back. Thank you for your call in Airdrie today, Scott. Bye-bye. It's Talk Back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been talking about the Air Canada strike, illegal strike, getting your thoughts on that, and by-election day in Battle River, Crowfoot. To Mike in Toronto. Mike, up next. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Rob. I'm just calling in because I wanted to put it out there that I get that, a lot of these issues are outstanding, such as the time the employees get paid for it to the time that they don't. But I just wanted to put this out there that, very often government themselves don't follow their own rules, such as the Emergencies Act being ruled not valid. So why can't people do the same, such as strike when it's considered illegal, even though we have the right to strike? And what's the government going to do? Fine everyone freeze all their bank accounts. There has to become a point where it has to be fair for everyone. And if the union orders it, what is the member supposed to do? Defy the union? So there's quite a few aspects to this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you remember this. I mean, in 2022, Ontario Premier Doug Ford was dealing with a strike in the education sector. 55,000 workers were off the job in the education sector. He ordered them back to work and threatened to use the notwithstanding clause in the Charter of Rights that would make any court challenge against that back to work legislation pretty much null and void from the outset. And all the unions kind of got together in solidarity and basically said to Premier Ford, look, if you do this to the education workers, we're going to shut Ontario down. We'll have a general strike. And, good luck to you then, Premier Ford. And what did he do? He repealed the legislation. He repealed his own back to work legislation, like literally just days later. I just wonder if maybe CUPE, because all the unions met last night. All the big unions met last night. I'm just wondering if CUPE has something in its back pocket that all the other unions may get on board with something, and we might see other in solidarity style job actions. I don't know. It's just something that's come to mind.
All right. And, I do remember that. That was another point I was going to bring up. But see, that highlights something that I think is very important. That to an extent, because it's now foolproof, it shows that our compliance as people dictate how far something goes or something doesn't. That if you just say no, what is it they're going to do? They're usually going to blink because they have the authority we give them, right?
Okay. They have put labor leaders in jail before for defying a back to work order and for perpetrating and encouraging an illegal strike. They threw one guy from Canada Post back in the 70s. They threw a guy in Canada Post. I think he was in jail for 45 days. Could you see them doing that?
Probably not, or probably tokenly, where they physically arrest them, but let them go because, there's soft on crime policies. So why not?
Right. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Thank you. That was a very busy first hour. We're following all the developments with the Air Canada labor situation. I mean, the airline had hoped that it would resume normal operations in just a few hours from now. It doesn't seem as though it's going to play out that way, at least today. We'll bring you right up to date with all the latest breaking news on that one, and then take more of your calls. And two big stories today: the Air Canada labor stoppage and the by-election in Battle River Crowfoot. This is News Radio. Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. Love to hear from you on the topics of the day. I mean, the Air Canada situation, it just grows more fascinating by the hour. This has been declared an illegal strike, and yet the union is saying to its members, no, you stay out on strike. Defy this back to work order. Hundreds of flights have been grounded. Hundreds of thousands of passengers have had their lives disrupted. Are you siding with the workers in this labor dispute? Should they get back to work? They are breaking the law. They're now exposed to fines or even jail time. Just where do you come down on this? This is so rare. This is an illegal strike at the largest airline in the country. What do you think of this, everyone? 1-833-668-2577. And if you have a comment on the comeback of Pierre Poilievre, I mean, it's by-election day in Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta. But Pierre Poilievre is hoping he can win, get back into the House of Commons. But what do you see ahead for this conservative leader, this conservative party? Could this leader, Pierre Poilievre, lead the Conservatives to victory in an election, form a government, become prime minister? Is that still in the cards for Pierre Poilievre? Does he still have the mojo to get that done? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available. I mean, this is an illegal strike at Air Canada, according to the Canadian Industrial Labor Relations Board. by not showing up for work, by shutting down, continuing to shut down this airline, these workers are breaking the law. And their union is really encouraging them to break the law. And then those union leaders, they're breaking the law too. I mean, if you were inclined to support the workers, have sympathy for the workers in this labor dispute, the fact that they're engaging in what amounts to illegal activity now, I'm just curious, does that change things for you at all? Does it change your perspective at all? Let's listen again. This was within the last hour or so, a news conference hosted by various CUPE, Canadian Union of Public Employees, the union representing these workers at Air Canada, the various officials from the union at this news conference today. And this is the national president of CUPE. This is Mark Hancock taking some reporters' questions.
We will do whatever it takes to get them a collective agreement that they can vote on.
When it comes to follow-up just to Wesley, is that okay?
Sure.
Wesley, on the call last night with members, obviously there was a tremendous amount of anxiety about people losing their jobs. Are you worried about people's stomach to stay on the picket line and not cross back over for fear of losing their job?
Not at all. Our members have remained strong and will continue to remain strong and have reached out saying that they're fully supportive of this and this needs to happen. They're no longer willing to accept the norm.
Mark, the Labor Relations, the CIRB has declared that this is a lawful strike. The strike is over, they're saying. You know that people will go to jail potentially and your union will face hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in fines. What's the limit that you're prepared to exert here to try to make your point?
There's no limit. We're going to stay strong. We're going to stay committed to making sure that those workers can do the job that they love doing and actually be able to afford a roof over their heads, to afford caring for their families. And if it means folks like me going to jail, then so be it. If it means our union being fined, then so be it. We're looking for a solution here. Our members want a solution here, but that solution has to be found at a bargaining table.
There has been a relative amount of goodwill from the public supporting you guys.
Yeah.
But as the strike goes on, that may change, especially since you've defied these two kind of back-to-work orders. What is your message to the public? A lot of people who have been in that airport just out the door there for 4 or 5 days now with nowhere to go.
Yeah, and I think Candace talked to that very well. We are sorry that the public is caught up in this. We're sorry that people are stranded across the globe. That was not something that we wanted to be an impact. I was telling some folks yesterday, I'm staying here at this hotel and went outside my room to come down, and there was a family sitting on one of those round couches they have in the hallways. They had their suitcases and they looked distressed. And as a human being, as somebody that cares about folks, that had an impact on me. And we're hearing the stories and we get the frustration that folks are having. There's life-changing events happening across the globe. There's people that have lost family members. There's medical appointments. There's vacation, and people need to be able to enjoy some time in the summer with their families. And we are, as Candace said, and as we've all said, we are sorry that they are being caught up in this.
When it comes to the negotiations, when was the last time there's been contact? Have you reached out to Air Canada to say, hey, well, this is all going on, can we just get back to the table?
I'm not sure when the last contact was made, but we have made it very clear that we're all still here at this hotel, and while we enjoy room service, we're not here for a holiday. We're not here for a vacation. We're here to do the work. We're here to negotiate a collective agreement. The employer is not here. We want to get a deal, but it takes two sides to commit to meeting and to working through some of the challenges that are facing us.
For the general public who may be confused by this, I mean, it does sound like you're sort of waiting for a call. Is that what you're waiting for?
Not necessarily waiting for a call, waiting for something for the employer to show up and say they're ready to bargain.
Have you?
Okay. That's good. Curtis, thank you very much. That's Mark Hancock. He is the national president of CUPE, which is representing the flight attendants in their ongoing labor dispute with Air Canada, and making it pretty clear today, the flight attendants will not be going back to work today. They're going to continue walking picket lines, continue, they say, to fight for better working conditions. And Mr. Hancock said, quote, if it means folks like me go to jail, so be it. If it means our union is going to be fined, so be it. And you heard him as well apologizing to the general public for being caught up in this mess. By the sounds of it, there will be no Air Canada planes flying this afternoon, which was the airline's intent. After the government ordered an end to the strike and everything sent to binding arbitration. Where do you stand on this, everyone? It's an illegal strike at the country's largest airline. Are you with the workers? Or are they in the wrong now because they're breaking the law? 1-833-668-2577. Have your say. It's hour number 2 of Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Kevin in Calgary up next here on Talkback. Hi, Kevin.
Hi there. How's it going with you guys?
Oh, everything's good, Kevin. Share your thoughts, please. Yeah.
Well, on Air Canada, I think the minute they cancel flights, they should be giving back twice the amount of money to the people who bought tickets for covering their costs and just the airfare flight. Okay.
Okay.
And the union for not letting their workers work, they should bear the brunt of it because they're telling their employees not to work, and they should pay for all the expenses, including paying again for the airplane tickets and hotel and anything else. And everything should be paid to them within 24 hours. So if they cancel the flight on me, I can go to a travel agent and say, here's my ticket that was canceled, and that travel agent should be funded. None of this. They're both playing games right now. And if they
I mean, it's a pretty serious game that they're playing here because this is now an illegal strike. Okay,
that's right.
People may not. Maybe people don't agree with that. That the government moved too fast to try and end the strike or whatever. But it is illegal. It's been ruled illegal, and they say they don't care. The union is saying we don't care. We have solidarity among our members, and they're not going back to work. What do you think of that?
The government should do basically the first thing the government should do is say what I said. They should have to give the money back. If they want to fight for not doing what they don't want to do, well, that's the cost of doing business. You pay for it and then take it to court and solve it that way.
Okay. Well, I mean, there could be fines. There could be jail time. The union leaders could be fined. The union could be fined. Individual workers could be fined $1,000 a day. Yeah. Do you think the workers should be fined $1,000 a day?
Yeah, you know what? I can understand giving the fines out, but it doesn't help the person or the families that are trying to get somewhere that they've planned for 2 years or 1 year, and you're just saying, oh, we're going to fine these guys. So you fine the union. The union will be able to write it off in taxes. It doesn't hurt their pocketbook.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You've got to hurt their pocketbook.
Right. You're thinking more. You're thinking about the people stuck in airports who have made plans and everything else, right? And what about them?
Anybody who's bought a ticket and they're going to leave, that they've canceled flights, they have to pay the money back right away.
All right, Kevin. Thank you. Marissa up next on Talkback. Hi, Marissa. You're on the air.
Hi there, Rob. Thank you so much for this show. It's always great listening in, and I really appreciate you and your callers. I do have a lot of empathy for everyone waiting in the airports. I do fly quite a bit myself, so I can definitely see that. But actually, I wanted to make a comment on the protest happening right now. I just dropped off my husband about 45 minutes ago or so at the Calgary airport, and as I was leaving the terminal, there was a large group. They had their flags and signs. They had shirts, but they also had massive smiles. They were cheering, clapping, waving. They were protesting in such a peaceful and respectful way, and I just wanted to, make a comment about how much I commended that and pretty courageous, facing a lot of public criticism, a lot of the potential fines and jail time. So, I mean, they're quite courageous. And for any friends or family, or even if they're listening, I just wanted to give them that shout out.
Okay, so it sounds like you're supportive of these workers. Is that right?
I am supportive of their right to protest and supportive of how they are protesting.
Okay.
I do fly a lot.
According to the orders, they shouldn't be out there protesting. They should be going back to work. They're breaking the law.
For sure. Exactly. And it is affecting so much. It's affecting the people in the airports. It's the economy and everything reverberating around it. But as they are doing it, and it is illegal, and they're showing that courageous kind of act, but they're doing it peacefully. You know, they're not stepping in front of traffic. They're not being loud and obnoxious. I just wanted to make a comment on that of like, you know, that's their right. That's their personal choice. And I just wanted to thank them for doing it in a peaceful manner.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Marissa. Just back from the Calgary airport and liking the sight of the protest out there. With an illegal strike underway now at Air Canada, have your say on that. You still side with the workers in this labor dispute if you were on the side of the flight attendants because of their gripes over unpaid work, for example, or has this crossed the line for you now that this strike has been declared illegal? It is causing great disruption. Hundreds of thousands of travelers in the tail end of summer here are being inconvenienced. Where do you stand on that? 1-833-668-2577. Have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Our big developing story today, you can weigh in on it, is the illegal strike at Air Canada. That's what it is now. It's an illegal strike. And it's continuing because the union wants it to continue. It says it will not abide by a back-to-work order. But the Canada Industrial Labor Relations Board has declared this is an illegal strike. It ordered the workers to report back to work. They were supposed to be back on the job by noon Eastern time. I mean, here we're coming up to almost 2:30 Eastern time. And people, workers are still picketing at all the major airports in the country. And the union leadership, CUPE in this case, had a news conference at an airport hotel out near Pearson Airport in Toronto and said this strike is not ending. We have our unions, we have our members' backs. And if the union gets fined, so be it. If our workers get fined, so be it. If union leaders get thrown in jail, so be it. Air Canada had hoped that it would be able to resume operations later today. Doesn't sound as though that's going to happen anytime soon. Let's go to Paul in Red Deer up next. Hi, Paul. You're on the line, Paul.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Paul. Yeah.
Here's my thoughts.
All right.
Same thoughts as what a fellow said the other day, and I was so glad that he called in because I was going to call him that day too. The thoughts are this: they were hired under the contract that they're doing now. If they don't like the the way things are, there is another job out there for them. It's simple. It's not hard to figure this one out. They go get themselves another job. I've done that my entire life. If things ain't working right, and I don't want to put up with it, I go get another job. Simple.
Okay. Well, that contract that they were working under expired, and they were trying to negotiate a new contract. And when the contract expired, they had a strike vote. They were in a legal strike position. The strike started. They got locked out. And then a few hours later, the government ordered them back to work. Didn't even really let the collective bargaining process unfold after the strike started.
Or was it?
It was hours later. It was like an hours later. Hours later. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, just like the postal workers, these folks are like, I guess what I'm trying to say is they're kind of selfish, including the union, because he's there saying, oh yeah, I really feel for these people. I see them out there and I really feel for them. Well, sir, if you really feel for them, then you would be letting the workers work and then being at the bargaining table instead of affecting so many people's lives this way. There's people that as well as I do, 4 days sitting in an airport somewhere waiting to get home. Yep, and that last caller made a very awesome point. The union should be paying for all these folks' inconveniences.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you think if somebody's travel is disrupted and they have to make other arrangements, buy another plane ticket on another airline, or they're stuck in a hotel in Toronto somewhere or whatever for the night, CUPE should be footing the bill for that.
The airline should give back the money for the ticket. I'm sorry, Rob. The airline should give back the money for the ticket, yes. But any other inconveniences, the union should be covering that. If they want their workers not to work, but if their workers were working, then I think that the airline should be taking care of it.
Okay.
But if their workers are not working, then the union should be taking care of these other expenses.
Fair enough. Thank you for sharing your opinion. That's all we ask on Talkback, is that you have an opinion. 1-833-668-2577. Share yours. This is News Radio. We've been mostly talking today about the big developing story today, and that's the Air Canada strike, which has been declared illegal, which does not seem to have mattered because the union is saying its workers are open to defying that back to work order. So any hope for a normal resumption of service at Air Canada seems to be on hold, at least for now. Wondering if you side with the workers in this labor dispute. They had enjoyed a lot of public support over this unpaid work issue, or whether now we've kind of crossed the line because they're engaging in an illegal strike for all intents and purposes. Would like to know your thoughts on this, please, as we get back to our phones. And let's go to Dick, is in Calgary. Hello, Dick.
Hi, how you doing?
Just great, sir. Thank you. Please share your opinion, please.
I just got a thought on the strike. I know the government ordered them back to work.
Yes.
Where's the government's actions on the employer? Like, we've heard the union is sitting in the hotel room enjoying the room service. What about Air Canada? How come they don't order them over to that hotel room and get them
well,
to the
by
bargaining
doing
table?
But if I could, sir, by doing what it has done and invoking this section of the labor code, section 107, what the labor minister said was they were going to send it off to binding arbitration. So an arbitrator would be appointed by the Industrial Relations Board, and it would be that person's job to impose a deal on both sides.
Well, I understand that. I'm one of those people that thinks that to get a deal done, you got to have two people at the bargaining table.
Takes two to tango, right? Sure, yeah.
And that's just my opinion. But on the other thing you've been talking about, Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Is he gonna come back? I believe he is. Like he's got the right idea. He's going to change the focus on the election from Trump to these EVs.
Okay. That's what he said he's going to do.
I'm sorry, I'm from Alberta. Well, that's what he said he's going to do, and that's what That's what he's going to do. He's not like the other guy. Like, I'm sorry, but our Prime Minister, when he first got his job, he started out with lies, and he's made all kinds of promises. He's bragging about how he's the only one that's going to be able to handle Trump. I don't think Trump likes him. There's a reason why we haven't got a deal, and everybody else.
Certainly, there's been no
has.
breakthrough yet. In fact, tariffs are higher now than when Prime Minister Carney won the election.
You nailed it.
So, yeah, okay.
You nailed it.
You think Pierre Poilievre could make a comeback and go all the way? Could you see him as Prime Minister, sir, someday?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir. Okay. Not that there's going to be an election anytime soon, but I'll remember that you called, Dick, and made that prediction. Okay, we have it on tape, sir.
I should have called before, because I predicted that they were gonna, the Liberals were gonna, when they were down 20 points in the poll, I predicted that they were gonna win the election. And
really? Wow, bold prediction.
Yeah, but I didn't call in.
Okay. All right. Well, you must have the crystal ball. A lot of us did not see that coming, but that's how it unfolded in the end. Thank you for your call today, Dick, and we'll see whether another one of your predictions comes true. To Dave in Calgary up next. Hi, Dave. You're on the line, Dave.
Hi, how are you today?
Just great, Dave. How are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. And
okay, good.
I gotta say something about the strike. Number one,
sure thing.
I guess I agree that they should be able to go on strike, a legal strike. I don't believe the government interfere in labor practices of an organization that is not a government entity.
Okay.
I don't quite agree with that. I mean, is it an essential service? Only if you want to fly somewhere is it an essential service, right? If you don't want to fly anywhere, if you're a train rider, it makes no difference.
Okay.
But the other thing that I have not heard anybody say anything about was the fact that the airline, the people that are out on strike, they're saying they only get paid, like the pilot said, when the brake is off.
That's right. Yeah.
But bargaining, the extra work that is involved in their job, so the pre-flight checks and all of that stuff, is that necessary? Well, of course it's necessary, but that kind of stuff is taken into account. And so when a senior flight attendant is getting on the plus side of $60 an hour for the time that they work, I do believe that the time before the break is off and the time, and everything.
You think the wage accurately reflects that?
Their wages.
You think the wage accurately reflects that? Okay, thank you. Gotta go. Thank you, Dave. Good call. Well argued, sir. Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I mean, there's a case to be made that, the federal government is using this Section 107 of the Labor Code far too often. And in the case of Air Canada and its dispute with the flight attendants, it didn't even wait a full day. The strike started 1 minute past midnight on Saturday. There later in the morning in Ottawa, Saturday morning in Ottawa was Patty Hajdu, the labor minister, saying, nope, we can't have this. Everybody's got to go back to work and those planes have to get moving again. And the critics will say, every time you use this Section 107, which doesn't have to be approved, in the House of Commons with a vote on back to work legislation, this is just an order from the minister in the interest of industrial peace. The labor movement is going to say, and I think you could make the case rightly so, workers' rights are eroded in this country. You have a Carney government led by a very wealthy prime minister, lots of corporate ties, who might be seen in this case as being too friendly to the company and not giving the workers enough time to come to an agreement with their employer through a collective bargaining process with the employer, the airline Air Canada. Workers went on strike. They were entitled to do that. They don't have a contract, haven't had a contract since March. In response to that, the airline locked them out. And within a few hours, there's the government moving to end it all. Again, citing the harm it could do to the economy, having the country's major airline shut down. Normally, that would be the end of it, and the workers would go back to work. But here, the workers haven't gone back to work, and it doesn't sound like they have any intention of going back to work. As things stand right, and nobody's really sure what's going to happen next. The union leaders sound as though their members want to be walking the picket lines, even if they could be fined. Maybe the union will pay the fines. Union leaders could be jailed. That's happened at least twice in the past. Union leaders have been jailed in the past for participating in illegal strike action. Is that what's going to happen here? Could turn into a real mess. It could turn into a real mess. Laura in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Laura.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah,
very much
pleasure,
enjoy
Laura.
your show.
Thank
my
you.
comments are, I support the flight attendants.
You do?
It's
Okay.
wrong on every level to expect an employee to go and work for free.
Okay.
And my point on that one is that contributes to Air Canada's bottom line, which was just in the paper not that long ago that they had over $1 billion profit.
Well, for all of 2024, for all of 2024, it was 1.7 billion, or whatever their fiscal year is. Yeah, 1.7 billion, free and clear.
Yeah, and they're making that profit off the backs of their flight attendants. Shame on them.
Okay. What about the previous worker the previous caller said, well, some of these people are making, $60 an hour, so that must take in is more than enough to offset whatever pre-boarding stuff they're doing and, when the flight arrives at the gate and everything that happens then. That's what one caller said.
Yeah, but is that true? We don't know because...
Well, I'm asking you, do you think that's true?
No, I don't. I don't think that's true at all.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Truth is in the eye of the beholder, I guess, right?
Exactly, and I don't think, and if, we should be, the general public, we should be made aware, are flight attendants actually making $60 an hour? Because they're saying that their take-home is not even enough to pay a month's rent.
Well, that's what some of them are saying. And again, the truth lies somewhere in between, because the airline would come back and would say, after this contract, some of our workers are going to be making more than $90 an hour.
Exactly. But how do we know that's true? Somebody is lying to us. And in the meantime, it's us consumers that are held hostage constantly. And then when this does get settled, the prices will go up. We all know that. And there again...
Right. But you have sympathy for the workers, even though they're on an illegal strike right now.
Well, that part, I don't agree with that. Two wrongs do not make a right. Okay. And I heard their union leader, I've forgotten his name, that...
Mark Hancock.
There you go. You cannot come on the air and try and garner sympathy for your cause when you were saying you were staying in a hotel room having room service.
Having room service. Yeah, I bet she wants a redo on that one. I don't... I know the point he was making is, we're at this hotel and we like room service, but we'd really rather be at a negotiating table with Air Canada. But he really shouldn't have said, I don't think.
I agree with you on that.
We're enjoying the room service. Yeah, that's not a good message to send. Okay, thank you for your call. I'm glad you picked up on that. I picked up on that too. Thank you. Be right back with a few more calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, certainly the illegal strike at Air Canada has taken over Talkback today. That's a major developing story for Canada today, with no resolution in sight to that particular labor stoppage. Let's go to Spike in Calgary on that one. Hi, Spike.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I've been sitting here listening to the previous callers and also on your commentary in regard to that it's a mess and it's not going to get any better, but I don't have a solution to today's problem, but I might have a solution to the future problems. My solution is let's open up the Canadian skies. Let's get rid of this monopolized flight that we have and allow other countries to come in here and service our public. And that's what I think would end stuff like this.
More foreign competition.
Yes. And like right now, you can't have U.S. airlines flying into Canada and picking up passengers and then maybe taking them to Mexico or whatever. Our North American rules are ridiculous. Open them up like they have in Europe, and flights will be cheaper, and there'll be a lot more competition, and a lot more destinations where people can fly to what we have now.
Okay, yeah, because it is a protected industry to a certain extent with the various ownership rules and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And
it creates a big barrier to entry. I mean, how many airlines have you seen come and go in your lifetime in Canada?
Exactly.
Right?
Way too many,
Yeah.
And but anyways, that might help the solution that we're trying to deal with today. It would certainly give customers other opportunity to fly, as opposed to right now. The only other real alternative is WestJet. And I'm sure WestJet is jammed full right now. You probably couldn't get a flight anywhere on them. So let's open up the skies.
Open up the skies. Okay, Spike, great comment, sir. I'm glad we could take your call today. Who do we have? Tom in Cambridge. Is Tom still with us on the line? Tom?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Tom. Thank you.
How are you?
Your opinion, please. Just great, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, my main thing is they had 8 months to come with a solution. Now, the biggest problem here is they're making 90,000, and a lot of the management are making a lot of money more. So why is it okay with them?
It's been pointed out the CEO makes $12 million, made $12 million last year.
That's it, eh? Oh, that's pretty low, I think. But I'm saying that, and we should be able to give them a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of hard work. And if you want to go after anybody, go after the government, because these people are in the bracket where they pay half their wages to taxes. And this is what's the worst thing that's happening here. So that's how you can alleviate a lot of the money. They can get more cash.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Okay, Tom. Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm glad we could take your call, but I'm afraid that's all the calls that we have time to take today. But I don't think this story is going anywhere. I would imagine this will be in the news for the rest of the day. Who knows? Maybe the rest of the week. An illegal strike underway in this country at the country's largest airline. All the details are coming up next. As we bring you the latest breaking news, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Talkback, brand new topics and more of your calls. This is News Radio.